Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we're going to be 3D modeling this wheel in SolidWorks. So the first thing that I'll take note of here is my origin's location, and I can see that the origin is located right in the center of this wheel, and it's kind of out on the front of this entire thing. The second thing I'll take note of are my units, and I see that I am in IPS, or inches. That's why I have a lot of decimal places here. And you might also take note of some of the little notes I have down here. So for instance, I see that this says a half section view. So this picture is in a half section so that you can see the profile of this wheel as an internal profile. And that also allows us to understand that we're probably going to be using the revolved boss base tool after we have that profile to make this complete shape. And then you also have some detailed views that's also cropped and smaller of this little connection piece. Okay, and we have a back view as well to help us out. So we're going to be using a combination of all of these different views to create this wheel. So I'm going to pull this to the side, and in SolidWorks, I'm going to start a new part file. I'm going to make sure my units are in IPS. I do know that my computer defaults to this, but you might want to check yours down in the bottom right-hand corner. Now I'm going to go to my sketch tab and select the sketch tool, and I'll sketch right on my front face. I'm going to use my line tool, and I'm just going to kind of roughly sketch out the shape of this. And even though it's laying down in your picture, keep in mind that this is going to be revolved. So it doesn't really matter what side you draw this on because it's going to be a 360-degree picture. Okay, so I'll start up away from my origin and over here to the left, and I'm just going to draw up. I'll get my 3-point arc tool, draw the top portion of this, get my line tool again, and I'll draw down and in, down again, out, down, and back to my start point. Now, I only rounded the top as of right now. These are also rounded, but we can do that with the fillet tool, which is going to make it a lot easier. So before I actually dimension any of this, I do want to make sure all of my relations are correct. So right here where it goes from a straight line to an arc, I'm going to make tangent. So I'll select both of these by holding in shift, set that to tangent. I'll do that on the other side as well. Then I'm going to pull my picture back over here so you can see this next portion, because this is what some students commonly miss. And real close in here, if you look zoomed in, there is a tiny little projection line. And that projection line is basically saying that the front of this wheel and the front of the part here and my origin are all in line with one another. So we can do that by just selecting this line, holding in shift, selecting that line as well, and my origin, and I'm going to intersect those. So in other words, if they continued, they would intersect with the origin. So you notice there that it kind of slid this whole entire thing over. Now I can actually start to do some of my dimensioning. So I'm going to get my Smart Dimension tool, and from my origin up to this point, it says it's a total of 1 inch. It says from my origin to this point, it is 0.75. And it says from here to my origin is 0.25. It has a radius up at the top of 0.125. And if you want to change this unit precision to 3 decimal places, you can. And the only other thing here that is underdefined is this bottom line. Now you might also have a blue line right here as well. Mine is not blue because SolidWorks just automatically defined it for me. So I'm going to explain what is the definition of that line or how you define it. So that line right here in the middle, if you see that little tiny projection line, says that this line and this center point are lined up with one another. We can also tell that because the overall radius is 0.125. The diameter here, obviously then, is 1/4 of an inch from side to side, and it says 0.125 is also from the center point out. So it's saying that basically this is centered, okay? So if I were to go ahead and try to dimension this, it would be 0.125. What you can just do is select this line, hold in shift, select that center point, and make them coincident. See, my computer already kind of projected that for me and did that for me. So if yours is still blue, that's why you need to do that. Now the next thing is this line. So if I pull this back over again, in this picture, it doesn't necessarily show anything from the origin to that line. So maybe we have to look at some of our other pictures. This is kind of just a blown up view of that connection piece. So that's not going to help us. But back here is the back, or down here is the back, and it says this center hole actually has a through diameter of 0.28. Now, since we are drawing on only half of this, we're going to be dividing that. So we're not going to do the diameter of 0.28. We're actually going to type in 0.28 divided by 2 because we want the radius of that hole. So that's going to be 0.14. Now this whole thing should be fully defined. You can go ahead and either fillet these in the sketch or you can fillet this outside. It really does not matter. I like to just fillet it in the sketch because that's one less thing I need to actually go back and fix, or it is actually one less feature that I have. So I'm going to get my fillet, and it says that this is 0.06, and that's going to be all of these corners here. Okay, those 4 corners. Now you notice it's 0.06 because when I zoom in, I'm going to have that tiny little straight piece right there. Okay, it would be nice if both of those matched up, but sometimes SolidWorks gives you kind of a warning when you have a perfect radius that connects into the next one. So I hit the green check. There's my measurements. Everything's good. It's fully defined. But most people would try to go over to revolve. The only problem with that is we don't want to revolve it off any of the lines we have drawn. We want to revolve it around the origin. So we need to actually sketch a line there yet. Get your line tool and a construction line, and I'm just going to simply click on my origin and draw over. So that's the central axis. And now I can go to my features tab and revolve. And since you just drew that line, it was probably still selected. SolidWorks is smart enough to automatically select that with the axis of revolution. If not, you can click in that line or click in that box and then select the line, and you can hit the green check. So now we actually have our wheel. Okay. And I'm going to rotate around to the back, and I'll sketch right here on the back. I'll hit Control 8 so it's a nice straight on view, and I'll center myself back up. Now, if I rotate down or if I scroll down here, I'm going to look at this bottom picture, and I can see that there are a bunch of repeated shapes. So we're probably going to be circular patterning this. And I can also see that there's radiuses. So a radius here and a radius here. So that's this inside curve and the outside curve. And then it looks like there's 30 degrees in between each one of them. I'm going to do several different ways by either making a circle or trimming it, or you could just use arcs. I'm simply just going to start with my line tool, and I'll just draw a line here to here, just kind of projected where I think it is. Hit escape, get your line tool again, just draw another one. Hit escape, and I'm going to draw a construction line from my origin, straight over. I'm going to make sure that's a horizontal line. Now, once those are drawn, we can select one of these lines, hold in Shift, and select our origin, and I'm going to make them coincident. As if it were to continue, it would actually lock into that origin. So I'll do that again for this one. And then I'll put my dimensions in here as far as the degrees go. So from that line to this line, it says it's 15. Then it says in between these two is actually 30. So it'll kind of position these in a good spot. Then I can get my center point arc tool, and I can select here. I can go right from that dot and kind of move my mouse around. So I notice that my line is not necessarily perfect, so I'll just go past it for right now. I'll do that same thing again. And I have some excess and this one doesn't connect. Well, that's easy to fix. You just drag this until it connects. Okay, and all the excess that we see here, we're just going to trim off. So I'll just get trim to closest, and I'll just trim this off. And now I can dimension these. So there's a lot of different ways of doing this. That's just one simple way. So 0.37 is the inside one, and the outside one is going to have a radius of 0.63. So you can do this by doing the arcs first and then the lines. I just locked my lines into place and then just did the arcs after. So now that I have that shape, now I can actually circular pattern this. So up underneath where it says linear sketch pattern, I'm going to hit the drop down and select circular sketch pattern. Okay, and what I want this to go around is this inside circle. So I'll select that. And if I count on there are 6 of them. So I'm going to change this to 6. I'm going to make sure I have equally spaced. And the entities to pattern are going to be these 4 lines. Okay, so the 2 arcs and the 2 straight lines. Now, if you notice, mine kind of moved over here because maybe when I did this point, it was wrong. It moved it. So let's go back up and adjust this. Let's actually click that point again, and maybe this time just select the origin. So maybe I told you wrong here. I clicked on the circle thinking, okay, it'll 360 degrees around that, but it wants a point. So click on the origin and then hit the green check. Now we have all of them and they're fully defined. So we can go to the Features tab and hit Extrude Cut. So you could have done this all just one cut, like just cutting this thing out and circular patterning it as a solid feature, or you could do it beforehand. It doesn't really matter. But if you set this to through all, it'll go through and now we have that shape. So it's starting to turn out, look like a wheel, looking pretty cool. Now we got to do that connection piece on the front. So I'm going to sketch right on this flat piece here. And again, I'm going to hit Control 8 so it rotates to a flat view. And in my pictures, I can see now I'm done with this bottom sketch. I can now see I have this sketch that I really need and then this measurement. Okay, and it's straight across from the origin is where we're actually going to be working on this flat piece. So we're going to do this in a whole bunch of different holes or different circles and extrusions. So I'm going to start out by just drawing a circle over here. Okay, notice that you don't want to click on this curved piece, so you don't want it to be tangent to that. And we're going to dimension this. So this is going to be the largest one, and the diameter there for the largest one is 0.25. We'll hit Escape. We'll make sure that the center point and the origin are straight across from one another, or horizontal. Okay, and then from the origin over to the center of this is 0.7. You can see that in the first sketch. So this is kind of stuck on the inside here. So how this thing would actually be made is probably the outside would all be formed. They'd probably drill a hole and then put this connection piece in there. Okay, so now that I have that, I'll just Features tab and Extrude, and I'm going to bring that up a total height here of 0.25. Green check. Then we'll just sketch on the end of it. Draw that next piece. So right off the middle. If your center point doesn't pop up, just move your mouse over the circle and then come back, and your center point will be there. And we'll dimension this to be a diameter of 0.125. We'll extrude this, and it extrudes up 0.125. So you can see that's that little connection piece poked out. We'll sketch again on the end of it. This time we're going to do the hole part that goes in. So get your circle tool, go on the center point. Again, if it doesn't show up, just move your mouse over it and your center point will show up then. And it says it has a diameter here of 0.0625. So if you want it to show that full dimension, you can just change your unit precision to 4 decimal places. And I'm going to go to Features and Extrude Cut, and it has it going down 1/4 of an inch, so 0.25. Okay, so there you can see that's now inside of there. So that is now the complete shape of the wheel. So let's change our material to oak. So edit material, go all the way down to the wood folder, set this to oak, hit apply and close, and we'll evaluate this. Mass properties. Now this is only defaulted to 2 decimal places. The picture actually shows 4. So let's hit options, use custom settings and change it to 4, hit OK. And we should get a mass of 0.0141 pounds. Our volume and surface area are correct, and so are our center of masses. Now, this really doesn't matter for this part, the center of mass, because this is a wheel, so this is obviously going to be repositioned, moved around, and whatnot. So your center of mass doesn't really matter because this connection piece, if it's in the up location, it's going to change your center of mass as well. Okay, so if you got all this, mainly the mass here, then you can save it and move on to the next one. If you didn't, please problem solve, figure out where you went wrong.